You are very welcome back to another video, and in today's one we're going to go through the ultimate campaign and segmentation strategy for any e-commerce brand when it comes to email and SMS marketing, right? So this will matter whether you're sending out product launches, promotional offers, nurturing customer relationships. Look, a well thought out campaign strategy is literally going to be the backbone of your entire email marketing strategy as a whole, right? What we're going to cover in this video is the timing of the emails, so when to send them out, the best practices, so in terms of content, what segments to send to as well. So that's really important, who to actually send your emails to. We'll dive into a bit of examples of emails as well, and hopefully you enjoy this video. So first things first is we'll get to the timing, because look, timing is everything in email marketing. Sending campaigns at the right time obviously can significantly impact open rates, click rates, conversions, purchases, whatever you want to call it, right? So it's really key, first of all, to understand your audience's behavior, and you can do this through A/B testing, trying to figure out when is the most optimal time to send an email, right? Do they check their email in the morning? Do they check it in the evening? Generally speaking, what we have found at our agency, at Gen Z Media, is that people will tend to open like emails in the morning before work potentially, or when they get to work, and then in the evening or later in the evening when they've relaxed after dinner, they're sitting down there on their mobile, maybe they're on their laptop, whatever that may be. So this will come down to A/B testing send times, right? Send time isn't going to be the sole reason why someone is going to open the email. Generally speaking, if your content is good across, the journey that the customer has went through, let's say from the point where they first signed up to where they are now, if the content has been good in between, they're going to be looking forward to reading your emails anyway. So they'll make sure to, come back to them even if the time isn't optimal. But anyway, nonetheless, timing is still quite important. So Klaviyo has a smart send feature, which you can actually check out now. We'll go into that in a second, whereby you can actually find what the optimal send time is. Now, there is a caveat to this. The list has to be a certain size. I believe it is 10,000 contacts at the time of this recording, at least. But the way you can do this is we'll just click in here. And what you have to do is once you get to the schedule page, you're going to click and see this little window here. But for whatever reason, Klaviyo loves to change their UI literally every single week. So this could be very different by the time you're looking at this. But hopefully, by and large, the principles are going to be the same. So when you get to this window, what you're going to do is you're going to select Smart Send Time, and you're going to be able to choose your option. So you can do it focused, you can do it optimal time, exploratory send. Generally speaking, if you've never done this before, you're going to have to do the exploratory spread across 24 hours first. That way, Klaviyo can then indicate what are the best times across that 24 hours, and then it can go on to the focus period, as you can see here, between 7 and 11 p.m. in the recipient's local time. And then it will find your optimal send time, in this case, 9 p.m. in the recipient's local time zone. So, of course, in relation to timing, again, holiday and seasonal campaigns are going to come into the mix as well. That should probably go without saying. But anyway, why this actually works, why timing works, emails sent at the right time are obviously much more likely to be opened, engaged with, bought from. Okay, it's not going to be the sole driver, but it is still quite important. Now we're going to go on to step 2. So who to actually send your campaigns to. And segmentation is obviously a big topic in email marketing. One huge mistake I see a lot of brands make is they over segment. You don't want to almost segment customers based on their their blood type, for example. You kind of want to stay a bit broader with it to a certain degree if your list isn't massively big. So generally speaking, what you're going to want to do is send primarily to the following segments, and we're going to discuss these one by one. And the first one is your engaged customers. So these are active customers who are opening, clicking your emails, let's say within the last 30 to 90 days, whatever that time frame is. And like generally speaking, the bulk of your sending is going to go to these customers. Now here is how this segment looks. Right, you want to note as well that you might want to increase the days, the day count to 60, 90, 120 days, depending on how big of a segment you want to reach to. And also it depends on how your open rates are looking. So for example, if your open rates are above 40%, maybe it's time to increase that day count as well. So here's an example of an engaged 30 days, opens or clicks. So again, if you're reaching, above 40% open rates on, let's say, this segment, for example, consistently as well, by the way, then it's maybe time to increase that to 60, 90, 120 days to try and get more people into that engaged segment. The next one you're going to want to look at is the engaged buyers. So in this case, these customers have already purchased from the brand. They're familiar. They probably have liked the product, hopefully, fingers crossed. So with these customers, what you want to do is focus on, further product recommendations, trying to cross-sell, upsell them onto other different products, loyalty rewards, and the likes, right? This is what the segment looks like. They place the order at least once over all time. They've clicked or opened an email within the last 30 days. Sometimes I see brands, they will create a segment of buyers without them being engaged, and there could be customers in that buyer segment who haven't opened or clicked an email in quite some time. So it's important to make sure that they're engaged. They're an engaged buyer, not just a buyer, but an engaged buyer. So that's important to know. Same goes for non-buyers. Exact same structure, except you're going to place, it's going to be placed order 0 times over all time instead of placed order at least once over all time. So they've never placed an order. And with these customers, or not even customers, but contacts, they've never placed an order. They don't have the trust built up with your brand yet. They don't trust it fully. They haven't, pulled the trigger. So what you want to do with these customers is showcase social proof, build that trust, compare the products against competitors, us versus them, behind the scenes content, brand building content. And what you're trying to do here is remove any objections that they may have and build that trust. They're the kind of 2 key things that you want to do with this segment. And oftentimes when I'm auditing e-commerce brands, I'll see that they don't realize they have a lot of non-buyers on their list. Sometimes it could be, 50, 60, 70% of their list is a non-buyer. And that is obviously costing the brand money because they have to pay for those contacts to be on the email provider. And obviously, they just assume that because they have a list of a certain size, that is, that is a good thing, which it can be. But if a lot of them are non-buyers, you need to then realize that there's a lot of work that needs to be done to try and convert all of these customers. Not even customers, but contacts, I should say. Now moving on to VIP customers, this kind of depends on your brand, how often customers do purchase from the brand, but generally speaking, we would set up a VIP segment as such. This will be customers who place an order over 3 times, and what you want to do here is just essentially treat them like royalty. They've spent, probably a lot of money with the brand, and they're a loyal customer, so maybe give these customers, personalized offers, like VIP only content, early access to sales, early access to product launches, anything that makes them feel exclusive. Also, another really good thing to do with VIP customers is ask them for feedback. They've bought over 3 times in this case. They've went through the process over 3 times. So you might as well ask them for some feedback. And these are more likely to be brand advocates. So you can get very solid qualitative feedback off of these type of customers. Now we're going to go on to win back opportunities. So these are customers who may have placed an order at least once overall time, but they haven't purchased in the last, let's say, 6 months. Again, this timing is going to depend on the exact product that you're selling. Of course, sometimes, if you're selling a product that should last, let's say, a year plus, maybe that could be a mattress, maybe 180 days mightn't work in that scenario. That's just a random example, but hopefully that kind of paints the picture as to how this, I suppose, time delay can vary from brand to brand. Generally with these customers, you're going to want to try and build up that trust again. There could be the factor playing here that they might have bought before, but they didn't like the product. Maybe you want to try and resell them on the benefits. If it's a supplement, for example, maybe you want to try and resell them on the benefits of consistent use of the product. Same with skincare. Always trying to push consistency of using the product. That mainly applies to consumable products, but that is, of course, another example of a segment that you will be reaching out to. And generally speaking, those few segments there are where the bulk of your sending should go to. If your list is kind of getting bigger and bigger and bigger, maybe you can get a bit more granular with your segmentation. But I often see with some brands, they will segment customers down to the point where there is very little people in that segment, and you're not really giving yourself the best chance of, trying to convert them or trying to get at least a lot of sales out of the work that you've just put in. Because look, if there's only 100 people in that segment, there's only so much sales that you can get from that. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the content strategy. So what to actually include in your campaign calendar, your campaigns in general. And that kind of boils down to a number of different things, right? So first of all, we have value-driven content, or what I like to call sometimes as well, branding style content. Now, this may include customer success stories, user-generated content, personalized recommendations. And the goal here is to really trying to build that deeper emotional connection with your audience, right? So when customers see themselves reflected in your brand, they're more likely to stay loyal and an advocate of your products. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to go into a few email examples, some from our clients, some from other brands, and we'll just have a little sconce here at some value-driven emails. Now, as you can see here, most of these emails are featuring reviews. What we're doing here is, of course, building that trust. We have some, in a sense, user-generated content, customer reviews with a picture with them, with the products. Same goes here. This is driving value, building that, I suppose, brand equity in the eyes of the customer. Another one here is a value-driven email where we're showing the dosaging for, for a specific supplement. And over here, this is just a brand building email as well. So it's quite simple, but like try and think of this as brand building stuff. How can we build as much trust in the eyes of the customer? Generally, like speaking, this kind of content is going to be really good for non-buyers as well. You're building that trust, you're building that trust over time. Now, what we'll do here is we'll flick back to the doc, and hopefully that all makes sense in regards to value-driven emails, or what you can also call branding style emails as well. Now, we're on to educational campaigns, and I strongly recommend checking out Athletic Greens emails as well, because they are absolutely exceptional at doing educational content. Now, when it comes to this style of content, what you can include is like product tutorials, how-to guides, industry insights and trends, and obviously addressing common questions or pain points as well. So maybe you want to do an FAQ email, which can be very powerful. And that's a very powerful email that you can include in some flows as well. For example, an abandoned checkout flow. You can obviously address all of the possible objections a customer may have. Now, when it comes to educational campaigns, we'll just have a look at a few ideas again. So in this file, what we'll do, I nearly knocked over my laptop. What we'll do is we'll just come down here and we'll have a look at some educational campaigns, right? So in this campaign here, catch more disease with adenosine. So this is obviously implying that with adenosine as an ingredient, you can get more sleep. And we're explaining here how it works, the ins and outs of that ingredient of a specific product. As again here, we're posing an idea of skin minimalism. It's a hard one to say, and showing how different products can solve a specific issue. Here's quite a long educational style email. You can see here we have a nice graphic explaining a bit more about the gut microbiome. But this content here, what this will do is it will invoke a feeling of reciprocity with a customer. So the more you give to the customer, in the sense that the more you educate them, the more likely they are to, reciprocate that feeling and obviously make a purchase. Now, a really cool brand here, Vacation. You can see here that like you can kind of blend product in with education, which tends to work quite well for our clients as well. So try and give some value, and then within that, show how products, relate to that piece of education that you were giving, and overcome a certain pain point or problem. And of course, again, AG1, very, very good brand when it comes to email marketing. You'll see here that they're explaining all the benefits that you can feel from the product, and explaining exactly how that works, what the ingredients do and how that works. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Now, we'll just flick back to the doc here again and go on to promotional campaigns. So generally speaking, you want to keep your content 80% educational / branding and then 20% promotional, because you don't want your customers to become offer blind or discount blind. You don't want to be just plowing them with 10%, 20% discounts all of the time, because customers will just get kind of tired of that, right? But when those times do come, of course, because you might have holiday sales, promotions, you want to make sure that you're doing it right. So a few ways in which you can do that is using action-oriented language, like exclusive, last chance, don't miss out, strong visuals as well, of course, and making it personal as well where possible. Now, what we'll do here is we'll just go back into this doc and we'll have a look at some promotional emails. Now, one thing to kind of note across all of these emails here, some clients, some not, is that when you kind of have a quick glance, you can basically grab the essence of the offer straight away. That's really important for a promotional email, because at the end of the day, all you want them to do is just claim their discount. So make that front and center super, super clear. The only one here is this one that doesn't, make that abundantly clear at the start, but this is actually a client of ours, and the subject line preview text, of course, mentioned the offer, and it was, a seasonal one as well relating to Mother's Day. So that's something that you can notice here. There is the offer front and center across all of these emails. That is quite important. There's no need to make your promotional emails too long either. Just give the offer and go. Simple as. very similar to how you would do that in a welcome series email one as well. Whenever you're giving an offer, give the offer and go. Don't overcomplicate things. Don't almost try and sell yourself out of it. Just give them that offer and then leave it at that. Okay, so now just moving on to kind of content styles that we've seen work best is number one is storytelling. And you've probably heard this so many times across, I don't know, all social media channels, that people always talk about the importance of storytelling, but it is true. Storytelling is so important, and it's one of the most valuable skills in today's market. So if you can learn how to storytell, you'll make a lot of money for your brand or for your agency as well. Now, second one is visual heavy emails. Because of the age of TikTok, people's attention spans are absolutely fried. So rather than sending very copy heavy emails, this kind of depends on your audience demographic. Let's say it's kind of a slightly younger audience, or an audience who's used to using technology or who is used to using apps such as TikTok. You'll want to make your emails much more visual heavy rather than copy heavy, just to try and make your emails bite-sized, concise, clear, punchy, and it's not too long. People don't get too bored. Unfortunately, that's the way it's going. But with some of our clients who have an older audience demographic, we are able to use longer style content, because if you think about it, those types of customers in the older demographics are used to reading newspapers. So if you're used to reading newspapers, you're probably going to sit down and read an email that's a bit longer than your average e-commerce direct to consumer email. And thirdly is plain text emails. Now, with a younger demographic, it's key to make this short and punchy, but you can get away with longer style copy for older demographics and generally for brands who sell a consumable product. So if it goes on you or in you, generally you can use quite long plain text emails, and we've seen them work really well for supplement brands and skincare brands. Because if you think about it, if you have a really nagging pain point, such as, for example, if you suffer from really bad acne, and you get an email from a brand explaining how to resolve that issue, and it's really causing you a lot of pain, you're going to sit down and you're going to read that email and you're going to try and figure out why this problem is happening and how to actually improve it. Now, key thing here is just matching content styles as well. So try to obviously chop and change the styles of emails that you're sending to obviously find out what is actually working best as well. Now, I've already mentioned this in terms of balancing content types. You can stick with a 70-30 rule or 80-20 when it comes to educational versus promotional sales emails. And last but not least, test. You probably might have got this from a few of my my videos so far, but nothing is set and forget, and you have to eliminate guesswork with with everything, right? So your campaigns should obviously always be A/B tested, and you're constantly improving on feedback, because you will literally just be flying blind if you're not A/B testing. So that's important to maybe perhaps, for example, test a designed email versus a plain text, test one image versus another image. You'd be so surprised the difference that a small tweak like that could make. Now, that is all, folks. So hopefully you found this video useful. If you'd like to grab this document, I'll leave the link at the bottom of this video. You can grab that. It'll be in the description, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of the video and of the doc. And of course, if you have any questions, you can pop them down below as well. So thanks very much for taking the time to watch this, and I'll catch you on the next video.